Rebecca Perryman, and I am the mother of Nora Lee, also a dog mom. Booker. He's our first baby, so.
I am Katie. I have 3 children, sorry. Tinley, Harrison, and Clark.
Yeah. No dogs.
No dogs. A fish named...
Oh, yes.
George the rainbow fish.
George the rainbow fish. George.
My name is Ayngelea. I'm a mom of 3, and I have one more on the way. Or I ate a watermelon seed. TBD.
We used to try that when I was a kid.
And I'm Laura, a mom of 2.
And my name is Katie, and I have 2 human kids, and then this guy right here. So,
He's
Thunder.
definitely.
From down under. He is the best. In the car on the way to school, we say, "We love you. I love you so much. Thunder."
And this is Coffee Conversations.
I'm a masterpiece, a creation from the Father's heart. I'm a work of art, fully loved and set apart. It's my identity, the daughter.
We are excited to share our first video with you from our series, Coffee Conversations.
So today we're going to be talking all about motherhood. The good, the bad, the ugly, and my favorite part, the messy. You just can't talk about motherhood and not mention poop. You just can't.
No.
And it just so happens that there is someone in this room who is a fantastic poop storyteller. Rebecca.
I wouldn't go that far. I think my child just happens to give me lots of content. But one time when she was pretty little, we had just started doing the whole food thing. Corn just happened to be her favorite. And I was changing her diaper.
Reuse.
And I guess some corn had fallen out of said diaper at some point, and all of a sudden I see this little chubby hand come down, grab the corn, stick it in her mouth, and I just flip out. I am pretty sure I was able to get the corn out. There's something, mom brain is real, and I can't actually remember, but I hope that I got it. Yeah, another great story from one of our kids. It brings in the Kiki song.
Oh, yes. So Clarky was at our 5-year-old, now 5. He was 3 at this point. He was at church and he was learning the Peter, do you love me, Peter, do you love me, Peter, do you love me story. And he all of a sudden broke out in the song, Kiki, do you love me? This sweet Sunday school teacher, she's like, well, Clark, honey, I don't think I know that song, but it's lovely.
Did he dance?
No, I'm just singing it.
So we're gonna make a rendition of that song, a little remix, but we'll just do Peter.
Both teachers definitely came out after though, and were eager to share that story.
They liked it.
Yeah, cute Clark just busting it out in middle Sunday school. Yeah, we got another good one about Riley too.
Oh, my daughter's a piece of work. So, when she was 3, if you're a mom, do you ever go to the bathroom by yourself? The answer is no. And there's usually fingers under the door.
Oh.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't
Fingers
matter.
under the door. And sometimes you don't even go. You're just sitting there a minute because you're just I just need a minute. So you just go in there.
So walk in the back.
And then you just see those hands. So anyhow, I was in the bathroom one day, and all of a sudden Riley comes around the corner. She's 3 years old, with this mane of curly hair, and was wearing multiple Halloween costumes. And she goes, "Hey!" I said, "Yes, Riley." She goes. She starts just eyeballing me, scanning me up and down, and she goes, some mommies are fat and some mommies are not. But don't worry, Mommy, you're not fat, just your butt is. And I just said, well, thank you. But she didn't mean it as an insult. Tell them it out loud.
Riley is a storyteller.
Yeah. It's alright.
Sounds like 3's gonna be fun.
The 3's hilarious.
I'm only at 2.
I don't like 3. I think it's a lot of just misbehavior.
Huh.
3's been hard for us. With all 3 kids.
I really had some terrible 2s, but I think it's at a different age for everybody. Don't you?
We were like you. The beginning of 3
It's
At least the
just-
first half of 3 was like
for all of
a more
us.
intense version of Terrible 2s.
Yeah, terrible 3s.
So,
So
My mom was 4.
I can see that as well.
yes. But in all seriousness, like apart from the messes, it's 100% worth it. Yeah, and just thinking like about what has been the most rewarding thing so far, I think is seeing how uniquely God makes your children. Like, I have 2, and they could not be more different from each other, like in looks and the way they act, their preferences for the way they play and pretend, like everything is different. And so I've loved seeing just how different he makes them. He gets to put little pieces, he's gotten enough of what Jacob and I are in them, but it's also like this reminder that, man, it is not all what we're doing too. Like he has handcrafted each of us individually, and so I love seeing their little personalities grow and develop.
I agree.
I think that's like one of the biggest things God has taught me too, just about how unique we are made, like in having a daughter and how much I delight in her and just who she is. Like she literally like farts, and I just think she's the cutest thing in the world.
Oh, that's funny. In there.
Even when she has a temper tantrum, sometimes I'm like, that's cute. Like that's a real cute temper tantrum.
And
It's like,
not sure that they
so funny. But I think in all of that, this year we got the privilege, my family, of going to Banff, and we were up on top of this giant mountain, and I'm looking out at this beautiful scenery, and I'm holding my daughter. And she's just fascinated. Nora is such an adventurous spirit. She's just looking out and is also just in awe. And I think, wow, God, like you are just showing off here. Like this is incredible. And immediately I felt like God said, no. When I made you, that's when I was showing off. And it made me realize like that's how he delights in me. Like it's a direct reflection of how I delight in my daughter. And like seeing Nora just look out at this beautiful scenery, and all I could think was like, no, Nora, like you're one of his greatest masterpieces. And like the fact that we get to be a part of their uniqueness and their story, like that is just such a gift from God. And it is not without its hard parts for sure. But I try to remind myself, for every hard moment, there's about 1 million good ones that we can reflect on. But there is hard stuff too.
Looking back at, I've been a mom for 6 years. It's a really long time to be as young as I am, but looking back over the 6 years and looking at the different times where I've had my kids, I definitely recall with Roman, my second, he was just honestly the most perfect baby. You could not have asked for a more perfect baby. He didn't do anything, it was great. But I still found myself super depressed, like crying, and it even got to a point where, and this is when I realized it was full-blown postpartum depression. My husband was changing his diapers, was getting his food, was picking him up from daycare. Like I just wasn't having any part of that, and I just didn't care that I wasn't having any part. And it was a really scary time for me because I was still so young as a mom of 2, just really young, and I had no idea what was postpartum depression. Who do I reach out to? So I never did. And it just, luckily for me, God saw it. He allowed me to bring light to it, to myself and my husband, and we worked through it. But postpartum depression is real.
It is, and I didn't realize that I had it with my first one because I didn't get depressed feelings. Like I was super happy because she was a preemie, she had to be in the NICU for 7 days, and that was just so terrifying. And so when we were in there, the nurses are wonderful, and they give you there were several different moms in the room, and they give you these blanket instructions, like make sure you don't do this, they can't, if they get sick, her lungs are compromised, so make sure she doesn't get, they scare you with RSV. Anybody heard of that? If you're a mom, RSV is like the scary thing they tell you right away. And so I got really severe, looking back, postpartum anxiety. Like it was like off the charts OCD. Like I put a sign on the door that says, baby was sick, come back in 3 months. And so Anthony's grandparents came to visit, they saw the sign and left, and I was like, well, what are we gonna do? And then I didn't care. And then, at the time. And then, I remember going to the grocery store, and the checkout clerk had dirt in his nails, and I was like, oh my gosh, RSV is coming. So I came home and I took Clorox wipes the outside of the bananas and all the groceries. And I thought this was normal, bleaching. Anything anybody touched, including myself, I would bleach. And I remember one night, like I never slept, and Riley also never slept, and I never slept, and so I was just like in a different world. And I remember one night at like 3 a.m, I hadn't slept at all yet, and I just went in the bathroom and I just lost it, and I said, because it kind of clicked when I bleached the bananas, I realized this doesn't necessarily seem like normal behavior, and so I cried on the bathroom floor, and I just cried out to God, and He really delivered me. And like slowly I was able to realize, hey, you peel a banana, you don't eat the outside. Like I slowly received healing from like the extreme germ part. And it was years later that I finally received total healing from anxiety. And so, but like looking back, that's where it really was at its worst. And so definitely my advice is like, definitely tell someone, because I didn't even know. Tell your doctor, like people are there to help. If you go to a counselor, talk to your counselor, because it happens.
Yeah, and even like Ayngelea, I remember when you went through, which I know this is hard to talk about, like your miscarriage too. I think that was a really hard time for you. Like you even had some postpartum stuff just from experiencing
just
that.
the loss of a child in any manner, I'm sure it's hard. But for me, miscarriage really, really hit me hard because part of me was thinking, well, God, you gave me this child. Why would you not want me to care for it? But that was just a lie that I was believing. It's not that God didn't want me to care for this baby. That was her purpose. She had even though her time was short, her purpose was so great. And all of my babies that I've lost and that are in heaven, it just reminded me of God's faithfulness, because after every storm that I went through with miscarriage, He just brought so much joy that you all have got to experience through Beckham and Little Salem. So
After that.
I think too, what was shocking for me is, so my husband and I, we adopted, and I didn't really expect that I would go through any, like, postpartum anything, because I didn't carry my child. But I think what was surprising is that I did kind of have some just PTSD, and our story had a lot of ups and downs. It was challenging to live through, but I always knew, even in the midst of our like deepest suffering with our adoption story, like at the end of this story was a promise kept. Like God had promised us Nora Lee, and that's what we were going to get. So I think I expected when I held her that it would just all that suffering, all the hardship, the fact that my best day was somebody else's worst day in the hospital. Like I thought that would all just kind of fall away, and it didn't. And that was really hard for me to kind of walk through and work through. I think it was hard because my husband honestly just connected faster to being a dad. Like I had just a little bit more of like a disconnect. It wasn't that I didn't love Nora, that I wouldn't have like done anything for her, died for her, but it was just this, I think I was having a hard time processing through all the emotions that come with adoption, and just also just my guard up a little bit, because with adoption there is a waiting period. You bring a baby home and there is a waiting period of signing those final papers, and it's always in the back of your mind, and every state's different, but here in our state, like it's a long waiting period. And so yeah, I definitely, very surprisingly, dealt with some of I think mine was more PTSD, and I went to a counselor and worked through it, but it was really hard. How about you all? Did you all have experience anything like that?
I think the biggest thing for me was not realizing how impactful lack of sleep can be, which in and of itself can cause anxiety and depression. When you go on so little sleep for such a long period of time, it's hard sometimes to have the self-control, to realize when you're losing control and when you really need to be leaning in to the Holy Spirit to carry where you always fall short. I definitely could see periods of time looking back with both where we still don't sleep, but where I realized just the intensity of what lack of sleep can do. And just it's good to know, like, to hear from someone else that it impacts them that way too.
That's the big thing, is like we need to talk about it, because the more I heard other people, I was like, oh, like nothing's wrong with me, like this is just part of becoming a mom.
It helps you to work through it.
Whenever I brought Nora home, Katie was a huge part of just helping me with that transition. And she used to always tell me every day, she would call me or text me, and you would say,
Well, and I had forgotten until you reminded me. I would say, I think it was, did you feed her? And you'd say, yes. You know, there's like, and did you love her? And you said yes. And I was like, well, then you're good.
Yeah.
Call it a win.
You're doing good. Yeah, and so I think becoming a mom, like it is like a becoming story. And there's a lot that God is teaching us. But the biggest thing that God taught me, I think all of us, is that I was made to be Nora's mom. And if my eyes are on him, I will be equipped for whatever comes. She was meant to be my daughter, and I was meant to be her mom. And God will prepare me to raise her to love him, and that's my main goal. I just want her to be exactly who God made her to be, and raise her to walk with him. And I think that's kind of all what we're shooting for.
Yeah.
So we did have one question that we wanted to answer for everyone that is watching. So if we could go back and tell our becoming mother, when we first became a mom, if we could go back and just tell ourselves one thing that we kind of learned through that early season, what would it be?
So I think mine would be just knowing that you're not going to be Superwoman, number one. But number two, that you're going to be doing a lot of mundane things that you feel like that aren't unseen, and that people just don't see it at all. Your family doesn't see it, your kids don't see it, how many times you've cleaned the bottle or picked up the toys or cleaned the streaks off the toilet. You're welcome. But it's okay. And just knowing that he sees it, and that we're not created to care for our families, but that's part of what being a mother and a wife is doing.
Yes, absolutely. I think for me, I just learned somewhere in the middle of it all that like every day I just need to wake up and like just take a big old bucket of grace and pour it over top of my head. Because I think I thought I was going into motherhood and just being like super intentional, and every moment would just be absolutely perfect and just on purpose, and I knew exactly what I was going to be doing and have a plan, and no. And so every day I would, at the end of the day, just felt like I was bombing. And I feel like God finally was like, every day I just want you to wake up and give yourself a bucket of grace, because that's what I do for you. And so that's something I try to remember, and what I would definitely go back and tell myself.
Yeah, mine's along those lines too. Just looking back, I would tell myself, you're gonna look around and there's gonna feel like there's a million things that have to get done. But the reality of that is there's not a million things that have to get done.
Yeah.
There are some things that have to get done, and there's a lot of things that can wait until tomorrow or a week from now. And so just giving yourself grace and recognizing what's important in the moment and what I can hold off on.
I think I would definitely tell my 16-year-old self, it doesn't matter how tightly or what position you put a baby's diaper on, their poop and pee is going to come out. It's almost like it's intention to come out.
Out of their back.
So, you know what?
And their hair.
And the car seat.
The car I always said it was like a Play-Doh fun factory.
Oh.
But, you know, it's nothing that a little Clorox wipe won't fix.
Yeah.
So.
Amen.
Yes. And I think looking back, if I had to tell my younger, new mom self anything, it would just be to be in the moment. And I remember one time I was in the moment, and I wish I was in the moment like so many more times. But like there were other things to do, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna sit here and hold her whole nap. I'm pretty sure it won't ruin her as a 25-year-old if I do this. Because you know, you're always worried about, well, like if I do this one time and then she'll just expect it. So I just held her, and I don't regret that. So I think I would have just told myself that like, it's that whole grace thing. Just have so much grace on yourself. And at Land of Roses, we always say that you're made on purpose and for a purpose. And I think it's easy. And I would tell my younger self, like, yes, both of my kids are made on purpose and for a purpose, but so are you. And I just think that as you go throughout whatever stage you are in life, whether you're a new mom or whether you don't have kids yet or your plan's totally different, like it's easy to look at someone else, especially a child, and say, man, you're made on purpose and for a purpose, but just don't forget that you are too.
This is my identity, daughter of the risen King. This is who I'm born to be. God, you are my anchoring. This is my